Hi you guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Julia Salvia. If you are new here, hi, welcome. I hope that you will subscribe and hang out with me for future videos. We post probably too much. Today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys this fresh face, but it's also really detailed and in-depth, an acne routine, like a acne foundation routine. I had so much acne when I was in high school and honestly even to this day. So I want to show you guys my tips and tricks on how I cover up my acne, why I use certain products, how I use certain products, and all of that fun stuff. So if you want to learn how I got this acne foundation routine, then please keep on watching. Hi, Train. Mwah. Okay, you guys, so I've already done my brows. I want to show you some products that I would use like the night before you go to school or the night before you want to get rid of the acne, at least kind of like flatten it out, maybe not fully get rid of it. So I love the Mary Badescu drying lotion. You just take a Q-tip, you dip the Q-tip in the drying lotion and pull it right out. You do not shake this up. And then you dab it right on top of your pimples and you go to sleep with it on. And then my second thing I want to show you guys is the Clean and Clear Detoxifying Charcoal Zit Zapping Dots. These guys you can put right on top of a pimple. I think you have to wet your pimple first and then you'll put this right on top, and you can wear this throughout the day if you're not doing anything, or you can wear this to sleep and then you just take it off the next morning. These are really cool and they're kind of similar to the drying lotion in some sort of way. You just kind of like put it on like a sticker. So those are really cool. And then I also love to use the Clean and Clear Spot Treatment. I have searched far and wide for mine and I have no idea where it is. It might actually be in my bathroom somewhere because I do use it fairly often. So those are like my top 3 products that I would use the night before when you have a pimple, just to really shrink it as much as possible so that when we do our foundation, our skin's gonna look as smooth as possible. Let's get into the video. I've already done my brows. I'm gonna apply some moisturizer. This is the e.l.f. Hello Hydration Face Cream with hyaluronic acid and peptide complex. I like to use a moisturizer that really sets into the skin. Just using a moisturizer to kind of help the skin underneath so that it's not flaky, or a moisturizer to help you not, you know, be as oily. You want to make sure you're starting with a clean face. So I'm just going to rub this in. So I have 2 primers that I want to show you guys. I like to use 2 primers because one I put all over my face and then the other I focus in the areas where I have larger pores. I'm going to use the CoverGirl True Blend Base Business Skin Primer, and this is their mattifying primer. So this is going to mattify even further any parts of our face where we get oily. So for me, that is definitely my T-zone. So I'm gonna apply this all over my face. If you are not oily, I would recommend something maybe more hydrating. CoverGirl also does have a hydrating primer from the True Blend collection. So the next primer I have is the Milk Makeup Blur Stick. It is not drugstore, but I literally cannot find anything today apparently, and the one that I would have used from drugstore is the NYX Pore Filler. That is my go-to drugstore, kind of like not exact dupe of the Milk Makeup Blur Stick, but it is definitely a product that I absolutely love from the drugstore, and it's bomb. So if you don't have the money or you don't want to go spend the money on the Milk Blur Stick, then definitely try out the NYX Pore Filler. It works almost exactly the same, except it is in a squeeze tube. The reason why I chose this one to show you is because this is definitely a go-to of mine. Unfortunately, it isn't a drugstore item, but this will last you absolutely forever. So I'm just applying the Blur Stick wherever my pores are larger, and you would do the same with any other pore filler. And before we move on, I'm actually going to blend it out so that it doesn't cake up our makeup. One of the biggest things with an acne routine, at least for me, whenever I do acne routines on myself or an acne routine on anyone else, I really like to make sure that it is very skin focused, but I'm also not applying too many products or too much of product. I'm gonna be using the L'Oreal Infallible 24-Hour Fresh Wear Foundation. It has SPF 25 in it, so if you are using any products that are maybe not great in the sun, or like have that warning on the back that say, you know, make sure you wear your sunscreen, this is taking care of that for you. It's got SPF 25 in it. I'm using this one specifically because it's not super heavy. That's the thing. I think we all think that when we have acne all over our face, we want the absolute heaviest foundation. And from personal experience, I don't think that wearing the heaviest foundation is going to make your skin look better. I actually think that it makes your skin look worse, especially if your skin is a little bit more bumpy and the acne is very new. I think that wearing something that is maybe more of a, I would say like a medium coverage foundation is probably your best bet. That way you can really make sure that it's blending into your skin and it's not going to kind of accentuate the pimples or pores on your face. So I love to use a foundation brush that is much more dense first to apply the foundation so that it kind of like pushes it into the pores, not in a bad way, in a good way. And I will put one layer first. And I'm not being too precise with it because I'm gonna go back with a sponge and actually blend everything out. So my sponge is not damp at all. I like to use a dry sponge. So I like to use a dry sponge to blend everything out. I don't know, I feel like a wet sponge kind of makes everything not as thick and not as heavy, and we want to keep the heaviness of the medium coverage foundation. We don't want it to become like a light coverage foundation. So I'm just blending everything out. And wherever I need more coverage, I take a little bit more foundation on my sponge and I will just put it wherever I need it. Whenever I do an acne coverage foundation, you guys, I don't want to like fully cover the acne. I don't mind if it's still showing a little bit. I would rather it show a little bit and still look like a fresh, natural face than my makeup looks super cakey and heavy. Okay, so once our foundation is done, I'm gonna move on to concealer. I'm gonna be using the Milani Conceal and Perfect Longwear Concealer. I really don't like to use concealer on my pimples. I know that's like so hard to say, but I like to just make sure that I am covering, I have a foundation that's going to cover enough where I'm satisfied. And this is covering enough where I'm satisfied, I don't feel cakey. I'm just gonna apply my concealer in the highlight areas of my face just to brighten up my face so that really we're paying attention to the center of my face, not the sides where all my pimples are. Moving on to powder, something I really like push when using powder, and you'll see it, it's the step after we do all of our powder. It's gonna be some setting spray, but it's gonna be a dewy setting spray, and that's gonna help make sure that we don't look super cakey. But with powder, I like to just use a light layer of powder. If you have dry skin, you want to make sure that the foundation that you're doing is going to hydrate your skin so that when you put the powder on, it's not going to make your skin look more dry. And if you have oily skin, you want to make sure you're using a foundation that is going to help make your skin not look more oily so that when we put the powder on, it's not going to kind of set into our skin and not help our face kind of like mattify or make it look more oily. So I'm gonna take this Kokie Contour Powder palette, and it has some shades of powder in here. I'm just gonna take my brush and kind of mix the yellow and this lightest shade together. And I like to just tap a little powder on top of my foundation. And that way when you tap, you're not going to kind of disrupt the concealer if you want to use concealer or the foundation that is on top of your pimples. And then I'm just going to go ahead and add some bronzer. And I'm going to kind of do the same thing with the bronzer. For me, and for a lot of like clients in the past, they have pimples on the cheeks. And if you kind of like rub the bronzer or move the brush back and forth, you're gonna disrupt the foundation or the coverage that you put on your face. So I'm just gonna use a fluffier brush so that when I tap, it's not too specific in the area that it's in. So it's gonna look like a good amount of bronzer, but it's not going to be kind of like a contour. I feel like a contour is much harder to achieve when we have acne on our face. And I like the look of a bronzer anyway. It makes for just a much more natural face. Same thing with our blush. We just want to tap so we don't move any of the foundation or concealer underneath. And for highlighter, if you have any pimples in the highlighter area, I recommend not using a highlighter and possibly using maybe a cream highlighter might be more helpful. I don't really get pimples in this area right here, but if you do, I feel like a highlighter will accentuate the tip of the pimple and make it look even bigger than it already is. So you just want to be careful with your highlighter. You're welcome. I'm just gonna prime my eyeballs with a little shimmery eye primer. I actually have a little bronzer on my brush, and I'm just gonna apply that right in the crease of my eye. And then I'm gonna go back to the highlighter, and I'm gonna use the highlighter in the inner corners, the lid, and the brow bone. And that just makes for an easy go-to eye. Now we're gonna move on to setting spray before we do anything else with the eyes. I like to do the setting spray after all the powders and before mascara so that our mascara doesn't transfer to our top lid or underneath our eyes. I'm gonna be using the Pixie Makeup Fixing Mist to spray, set, and bring everything together, especially if you use maybe a little too much powder or you use maybe a heavier foundation, concealer, or powder to begin with. This is going to help kind of bring everything together. This is the secret to non-cakey makeup. And then finally, to finish off this makeup, I'm just gonna add a colored lip balm. I love the Pixie ones, another product that I could not find for this video for you guys. So I have the Tarte ones, which are not really that expensive either. All right, you guys, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know your acne foundation routine tips and tricks down in the comments below. As always, subscribe to me here, check out all my other videos here, and I will see you guys next time.